If nothing changes, you will work until you die. Not because you are lazy, not because you are incapable, but because the system you are inside was never designed to make you free. That sentence is not drama. It is projection. It is probability. It is the most likely outcome if you continue exchanging time for survival without building anything that works without you. Most people do not retire wealthy. They retire tired, or they do not retire at all. They slow down. They reduce expenses. They hope the numbers hold. Hope is not a strategy, and time does not negotiate. You believe you are working towards security, but what if the path itself guarantees dependence? You are trapped, and the trap does not look like a prison. It looks like a career. You wake up, you trade hours for income, you repeat. The paycheck arrives and resets your anxiety for 2 weeks. You feel stable, predictable, responsible. But predictability is not freedom. It is controlled comfort. Your income exists only when you are active. The moment you stop moving, the money stops flowing. That is not ownership. That is rented survival. The hidden illusion is simple. You think you are building a future. In reality, you are servicing the present. Your effort pays bills. It does not create independence. And independence only comes from assets that operate without your constant involvement. Let us remove emotion and look at math. You have 24 hours in a day. After sleep and basic recovery, you have maybe 14 usable hours. You sell 8 to 10 of them. That is your inventory. As an employee, your income is capped by time. Biology becomes your ceiling. If you want to double your income, you must double your effort. But there is a physical limit. You cannot sell 25 hours in a day. You cannot duplicate yourself. Linear income has a hard cap. Meanwhile, asset owners operate under a different equation. When they own equity, systems, digital leverage, or scalable businesses, income detaches from time. A product can sell to 1,000 people at once. A company can grow while the owner sleeps. Investments can appreciate without daily labor. Inflation makes this divide worse. Prices rise, asset values reprice upward, but wages lag. Employers adjust slowly. By the time your salary increases, your purchasing power has already declined. As long as you rely on wages alone, you are always reacting to the system instead of benefiting from it. This is not conspiracy, it is structure. The economy rewards ownership more than effort. If you sell labor, you are taxed heavily. If you own capital, you are incentivized. The system needs assets to grow. It does not need more hours at desks. So if the math is clear, why do intelligent people remain inside the cycle? Psychology. A paycheck is one of the most powerful emotional drugs ever designed. It arrives on schedule. It signals safety. Your brain receives confirmation that food, shelter, and status remain intact. Dopamine reinforces the behavior. You show up again. You comply again. You repeat again. Over time, you organize your life around that predictable deposit. Your house payment depends on it. Your car depends on it. Your lifestyle expands to match it. You become dependent not on purpose, but on continuity. Then there is status. Titles cost companies nothing but mean everything to your ego. Manager, director, vice president. They substitute identity for ownership. You begin to measure progress by promotions instead of assets. Busyness becomes a badge of honor. Exhaustion becomes proof of value. But activity is not leverage, and leverage is the only path to freedom. Social conditioning reinforces it further. From school onward, you were trained to follow instructions, meet deadlines, and exchange performance for approval. You were not trained to build systems. You were not trained to read balance sheets or evaluate scalable opportunities. You were trained to be a reliable component in someone else's machine. None of this makes you weak. It makes you conditioned. If you continue operating under the same mental software, the outcome is predictable. Decades of effort, limited accumulation, dependence on future market conditions you do not control. If you want a different outcome, you need a different operating system. Stop seeing yourself as an employee. Start seeing yourself as an entity that must accumulate assets. Assets are anything that generate income without requiring your constant presence. Equity in businesses, shares in productive companies, digital products, intellectual property, automated services, systems that scale beyond your hours. Ownership changes the equation. When you own, income is no longer capped by time. It is multiplied by distribution. The goal is not to work harder. The goal is to build once and benefit repeatedly. Every dollar you earn can either disappear through consumption or be deployed as capital. When you spend, the dollar leaves permanently. When you invest, the dollar begins recruiting other dollars. Compounding is quiet, but it is relentless. You do not need to quit tomorrow. Recklessness is not strategy. Your job can serve as your initial investor. It provides the cash flow required to build assets. The mistake is using all surplus income for lifestyle expansion instead of ownership expansion. Here is the practical transition. First, stabilize your expenses below your income. Create surplus deliberately. Surplus is fuel. Second, redirect that surplus into assets, not liabilities. Broad market equity, cash flowing opportunities, digital leverage projects, anything that can scale beyond your hours. Third, use your non-working time strategically. From Friday evening to Monday morning, you are not a consumer. You are a builder. Learn skills that compound. Study investing. Build something small but scalable. Test ideas, iterate. The early phase is not glamorous, but it is transformative. Fourth, measure escape velocity. When passive or semi-passive income begins covering essential expenses, psychological dependence decreases. You negotiate differently. You think differently. You operate from choice instead of fear. Finally, protect ownership. Resist promotions that only increase responsibility without increasing equity. Higher salary without ownership often tightens the leash. This path is not comfortable. Comfort is what keeps people working until they die. But ownership, even modest ownership, shifts the trajectory. Imagine yourself decades from now. Your energy is limited. Your time is mostly spent in reflection. What will matter? Not the late meetings, not the title on your email signature, not the incremental raise that vanished to inflation. What will matter is whether you built something that outlived your effort. You cannot buy back yesterday. You cannot rewind a decade spent exchanging hours for survival. You can only decide what happens next. If nothing changes, the projection remains the same. You will work until you cannot. Then you will hope what you accumulated is enough. Or you can start building assets that function without you. Quietly, consistently, intentionally. One path leads to predictable exhaustion. The other leads to ownership. Time will pass either way. Choose the equation you want to live inside.